parents. It's Miss Gallagher again. We are starting a new unit. We actually started it yesterday, and it is, of course, our favorite unit on division. I'm being a little sarcastic. Fourth graders, when the fifth graders come in fourth grade, they did do some long division, but they're still not that confident in it. So by fifth grade, my job is to make sure that they are more confident and then taking them just a little bit further. Here is what we have in Unit 3. We really just go over three things: dividing whole numbers, modeling dividing decimals, and then, of course, dividing decimals. This is the foldable that we use for dividing whole numbers, and we will actually be using this foldable all week long, just because there is no change. If you can see, we divide, multiply, subtract, check, and bring down, and we do focus on the standard algorithm, like I say, the way that we learned how to divide. We do focus on that, but there is another way that I show the students how to divide as well, and I'll show that way to you also. For me, honestly, as an adult, this way made so much more sense when I learned how to do it this way, but I tell the kids I'm fine with either one. The main thing is really getting the kids to start asking themselves, how many groups can we make? Instead of, 6 goes into 7, it's better of how many groups of 6 can we make out of 7? And then as you go down further, how many groups of 6 can we make out of 18? And then how many groups of 6 can we make out of 9? And that's really, it's just helping them understand division better. When we say go into, students don't tend to really understand what that means. But if we can, change our focus to how many groups we can make, it helps them understand division a little bit better. We do divide by 1 digit to 2 digits, and then we divide up to 4-digit numbers. So that is a change from 4th grade. They were only dividing by 1 digit. In 5th grade, we do divide by 2 digits. This other way, I'm going to put this to the side for a moment, and I'll go ahead and do a 2-digit problem. So if we had the problem 4,258, and we wanted to divide it by 22. One of the things that really helps kids is using kind of a chart like this. They put each of the numbers in the boxes, and then they put their divisor here. And what it helps with is they can see I'm dividing the 4 first. So how many groups of 22 can I make out of 4? Well, I can't. If I only had 4 pencils, I can't make a group of 22 out of those. So I would put a 0 here. 0 times 22 is 0. I would subtract, and I get 4. Then I bring that up to the next box. So it's still the divide, multiply, subtract, but instead of bringing down, they're bringing it over to the next box, and it helps them see those groups a little bit better. So again, this is just another way. They can do the regular standard algorithm way, but for some kids that way is just beyond what they can do, and they really kind of grasp this better. So again, if I was going to divide 22 and 42, I would say how many groups of 22 can I make out of 42? And when we're working with 2-digit numbers, I like to have the kids kind of make a chart. So we know that the first multiple would be 22, the second one would be 44, the third one would be 66, and so forth. So I can see that 2 groups would be too much. So I could only make 1 group. 1 times 22 is 22. 2 minus 2 is 0. 4 minus 2 is 2. And then I would bring my remainder, that 20, next to the 5. So now it becomes 205. And now I have to ask myself, how many groups of 22 can I make out of 205? I know 10 would be too much, so I would probably try 22 times 9. And I get 198, which is going to work. So that means I can make 9 groups of 22. I'm going to subtract the 198. And so that's 7, and I have 7 left over. Again, bringing that to that. I know if I kept going with my chart, times 4 would be 88, which is too much. So I can make 4 groups of 22 and subtract 66. And I have a remainder of 12 because there's no other box to move it to. So my answer would be 194 with the remainder 12. So again, it's just it's the same thing. It's the same thing as the algorithm. There's just something about bringing down, and then they don't understand what to divide. They don't understand that new dividend that's below, but they do see it going across. So this is a way that you might show your kids to help you and so forth. Sorry about that. Let me erase this real fast. Okay, sorry about that. I had to get that phone call. So yes, again, either one of those ways would be fine to do the division. Like I said, for most kids, it just kind of helps to see this other way. The next thing that we actually won't start working on until next week is dividing decimals. And this is probably one of the things that for me was kind of hard to understand. Like I didn't understand why we had to go over this with them, especially after we had spent so long with dividing whole numbers. Why couldn't we just go into decimals? But they want us to model it first so that the students understand that it is like regular division. So basically, the students use the whole number in the dividend to determine the number of base 10 models they would need. They divide the base 10 models into groups based on the number in the divisor, and then they count how many groups were formed when they split them. And so we're going to do a practice, and what we've got here is, like this first question, it's hard to see, I'm sorry. It says, use the model to show 1600ths divided by 2. And so what we would do is we would take 1600ths and split it into 2 groups so that we can see that 800ths is our answer. So it's basically, and really what I do with the students is we bring out the base 10 blocks and we physically divide them, and then we go to the picture and we draw out what we actually did with the base 10 models. So it gives them a chance to understand how it is. This is a tested question, I guess, a tested subject. So it does kind of go in and have them, like they have to choose the best model. So mainly the main thing is to understand the difference between the multiplication models and the division models. After we model, then we go into dividing decimals. And what I love about 5th grade is we divide decimals in the dividend, but we don't divide by decimals, which, yay, because that is awful to have to teach them how to move the decimal, and they don't do that till 6th grade. So really, the only extra step they need to learn is we got to move the decimal up, and we may have to annex zeros, which is just add a 0 to the end, so that we can continue our division instead of getting remainders. With, I tell the students with decimals, there's no remainders. You keep dividing until you get to the 100th place or it ends. And you and I both know that some division problems can go on forever. So we just always stop at the 100th place and we just end it there. And then just, annexing those zeros as they go. So again, this kind of works in the standard algorithm. It works the same in that box method that I showed you as well. They just bring that decimal point up and then they divide like they normally do, and then they just keep, instead of getting a remainder, they add another box and add a 0 in it and continue dividing until they get to the 100th place. And then that's it. That's basically it for division. The best advice that I can give is practice, practice, practice. As much practice as they can get. Give them some numbers and have them divide it out. We won't be going into decimals until next week. So the main thing right now is work on those whole numbers. Give them some numbers. Like I just randomly picked some numbers and divided. Let them show you their division and just have them practice as much as possible. That's probably going to be the best way to help them. Like always, if you have any questions, please let me know. And I hope this video was helpful. Thank you so much. Have a great day.